Welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast, brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use the promo code DNVR20. You'll get 25. You'll get 25% off your entire purchase of that CBD infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I'm your host, Drew Creasman, the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is beat writer Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we break down a beatdown for you. The Colorado Rockies with a whomping of the Chicago Cubs, a 13-6 victory. We'll get into the details of it. And not only just the details of the game, but Patrick, this is one of those ones. Baseball doesn't always work out nicely this way for us, where, they're kind of emerging narratives, and then the big thing happens, and it's usually like, oh, Rafael Ortega hit 3 home runs in a game. What did that have to do with anything, right? But in this particular case, sort of the standout stars of last night's game are really some of the most intriguing figures on the Colorado Rockies right now, with what they've been doing lately, with what we can look forward to in the future. But I wanted to begin there where we have to, in the second inning, with the grand salami from everyone's new favorite Colorado Rockies catcher of all time. All of a sudden, what a turnaround for Elias Diaz.
It's almost the return of Willing Rosario in so many ways. A catcher that can hit home runs with some frequency, even. His home run, his grand slam against the Cubs was the first for a Rockies player against the Cubs since Jamie Carroll in 2007. And if that's not interesting enough,
how about that?
It was off of current New York Mets pitcher Rich Hill, going strong at 41 years old. So wow. I like those kind of random things, not to mention the what Elias Diaz was able to do and Sam Hilliard were able to do out of the 7 and 8 spot in the lineup at the bottom in a season where the offense has struggled a lot, and yet you get that kind of a production. Diaz and Hilliard each had a double, homer, and 4 RBI in those bottom 2 spots. And that's the first time it's happened in the majors since 2002 by Giants players Damon Minor and Tsuyoshi Shinjo. 2 other guys you probably forgot existed, and that might be the case for these Rockies guys in a couple years. We don't know. But bottom line is it was historic in a lot of different ways, and not just because most people didn't know anyone in the Cubs lineup other than Rafael Ortega and Frank Schwindel.
Well, Frank Schwindel, we know now. When he hit that double, I just had to laugh. Sure, everyone listening to this show yesterday was like, no, I know that guy. Big expert on Frank Schwindel now. Patrick, I must agree with Real Corsi Cat. Both of those statistics are absolutely fantastic. And when you sent that one out on Twitter last night, a reminder to follow on social media at Patrick B. Lyons. And I did the same thing. I was like, who are those Giants guys? Now that we get to the other part, we'll talk about Hilliard as well in a minute, but and just a warning for everyone that's a subscriber to the DNVR.com, I am going to double dip on this. So you're going to get some of this in writing. The good news is if some of these stats just kind of go in one ear and out the other than, the generalities of them, you'll be able to check them later. But so on Elias Diaz on May 24th, right? That's when he hit his first home run at the New York Mets. On that day, he was hitting 135, on basing 207, and slugging 203. That was his first home run of the season, May 24th.
And at that point, Dom Nunez had been struggling for a little while.
Yeah.
But was the guy because he's younger, a lot more controllable, and you go, you got to keep Nunez. But Diaz, you might want to make a move on this guy. Waiver. That's it.
He was maybe much. One more bad week. He had been essentially, again, you're going to read this later. He was basically the worst hitter in baseball for the first 2 months. To that day, up till May 23rd, he'd been the worst hitter in baseball. Since that day, so from May 24th through last night, Elias Diaz is hitting 275, on basing 349, slugging 595. He's hit 12 home runs, all 12 of his home runs on the season, 24 ribbies, an oddly low number of RBI for the home runs. Get on base, somebody, in front of Elias. And last night they did, so that helped. But 40 games now. We're talking about a 40-game sample size where he's been a 275 batting average catcher, but basically a 600 slugging. Now, of course, he's not going to keep up that pace. But that's maybe I shouldn't say, of course. That's not a complete.
And he doesn't have to, right? Because again, we're talking about a position where historically you just don't get that much offense. So you understand that, and you just, again, at this point, when it comes to catching, it's like playing shortstop in the 70s and 80s. You really didn't need to do much. You know, Cal Ripken, of course, ruined that for shortstops everywhere for an entire generation of players, and I mean that in a good way. But like if you can just get that in a week or two, you're really happy, because really it's more about the receiving. It's about the defensive part of the spectrum, handling a pitching staff, not offensively. And so for the Rockies to get that right now out of Diaz, and have been getting it for the last 2 months, has been incredibly valuable to them.
Right. So it's really easy to sit there and be like, well, guys, he's hitting 222 on the season. It's like, yeah, in other words, he's raised his batting average 100 points in the last 40 games, and not by throwing out a bunch of hits or whatever. When you're raising your batting average by that much, that quickly, and you're doing it with like 12 home runs, and obviously no one who's listening to this needs to know it. You've been watching it unfold. It's been amazing. This was one of those things that very much just passes the eye test, but it looks real right now. And, you know, he hit cleanup the other day for a reason, and it's been really, really fun to watch. So yeah, I think there is a sense of Rockies fans enjoying this, wondering when that other shoe is going to drop, but also that one part of them that goes, maybe this is the guy. Maybe this is the guy that at least finally gives them a little bit on both sides too, because he's got he was near the top and then he kind of tapered off, but he got a +3 DRS. So he's been a quality defensive catcher, not one of the best, certainly not among the worst. And for that, to be able to get that and not have to sacrifice the bat is literally something this franchise has never had at that spot. So if it's 40 games or 140 games or 240 games, you're going to take it. But we're going to keep watching him very closely for exactly that reason.
And it's a win-win, because he is a free agent after next season, so he still has one more year of control. So if this offseason, you know, you like a lot more what you see out of Dom Nunez, or you play the market and say, you know what, we can bring in another kind of backup catcher, another veteran guy on a very low deal. And if teams are knocking down our door and offering us a lot for Elias Diaz, it's kind of a win-win. And again, whatever the Rockies choose in that position will be up to them, and they'll have the freedom to do that this offseason. And to your point, Drew, he wasn't literally, but he was incredibly close to being the worst player in baseball through May 23rd. He was actually third. Yeah, according to Fangraphs, -0.8. Only Jacoby Jones of the Tigers and Jorge Soler of the Royals at that time were worse.
He's turned it around too, right? He's Soler. I was
And the guys right after him were you know the names. Elvis Andrus, okay, he's in the twilight of his career. Sure. Eugenio Suarez, who was a guy that I would have said could be an MVP type candidate on a long shot, right? Yeah. He's been playing shortstop, so that's kind of throwing him off. Christian Pache was 6th worst. Very good young prospect for Atlanta. Jonathan Scope, and then the names get a little bit murky, but it's interesting when you look at the names there, and to see that Diaz has easily been the one who's turned it around in the most extreme capacity to do it for a catcher has really been a boon for the organization.
Yeah. Well, our guy Steven here in the comments, remember to join us on YouTube if you want to make sure that you're impacting the conversation, really wants to see Daza back out there again tonight. But of course, Adam right here, right alongside in the comments section. Not before this, the was not in reference to that. It was something that we said, just also mentioning alongside of that. Hilliard going to be a stud. We're going to, we don't have a 40-game sample size. We've got 16 games here, but it's a very Elias Diaz-like turnaround. It's kind of wild because, again, one of the worst, he wasn't even a qualified hitter. He's just one of the worst hitters. He didn't even qualify for some of these things. He didn't play enough to put up negative WAR because Hilliard just kept striking out so much. But in his last 16 games, so since he's been called back up, Hilliard's hitting 275 on, again, they're both 275. That's kind of fascinating. On basing 370, slugging 625. 4 home runs, including the 3-run jack in the 4th inning last night that really did end any hopes of the Cubs from coming back from the early grand slam in that one. Those two shots from Diaz and Hilliard pretty much put the game away. But again, not as much of a sample size, but 16 games is where you're starting to get a little more into, do you worry about ruining this guy's development or momentum if you've got to sit him back down? Just to go back to Daza, who had been playing well, Tapia, who you've got to keep out there to let him, just keep proving that where he's at. Charlie Blackmon, you're not going to bench. So all of a sudden, the Rockies have this kind of depth issue, not a depth issue in the run. They have too many outfielders. If I worry about any long-term effects of benching Sam Hilliard right now, but you've also got to find ways to get Daza back out there.
It is an interesting scenario. I think, when we talk about this being a transition year and we talk about the Lost Boys, they're not a young team. They are an inexperienced team. And a lot of the development, or the biggest development that players make, are as young guys, right? That's the biggest jump, is just trying to go from the minor leagues to the major leagues. Like, that's huge for so many guys who never get to do it. That's why just having that one at bat is so historical, literally and figuratively. Right. And so then there are those other jumps and stuff that are part of a player's development that don't always even require to be on the field for that, like just maybe general maturity, or taking better care of your nutrition and your body and off-season regimen and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily know that, benching Hilliard, or again, just reducing his playing time, is going to impede his development, because I think he already has all the tools and skills that he needs to be a successful ball player. He needs to do certain other things in order to make that official transition. And I think, in a way, one of the things that, he needed to learn how to do from the beginning of the season is take games off and, jump in there for one at bat at a time. And that's a hard thing to do too. That's one of the reasons we haven't seen those veteran guys come in as that 25th or 26th man, like Lenny Harris, where a guy could just come off cold off the bench and just get a hit and, late in a game. Right. That's a very specific skill.
Dying art too.
It is. No, it absolutely is. And you get it because teams want to use all of their players to give you as much flexibility as possible. And for so many of the inexperienced guys that the Rockies have, they're still learning those elements. So all the tools are there. It's just about learning that. So I think, in a way, now is almost a good time for Daza to be coming back, and for both of those guys potentially to learn, okay, what does it mean to be a big leaguer who's not playing consistently every single day, who's not guaranteed a spot in the lineup? They're both battling, but at the same time learning to take a step back and say, okay, can I still be consistent with inconsistent at-bats? And that's something I think a lot of inexperienced players all across baseball need to figure out.
No, you're right. That's absolutely a really important skill to learn. I would hope at some point you're trying to push one of those two guys into seeing if they can be an everyday regular for you in the future, because I think the jury is still out on both of them. So if you can do both of those things, that's absolutely the best of both worlds, because one of them is going to end up going the other way, if not both. And in fact, that's the most likely scenario, is that they're both career fourth outfielders. And if they learn how to do that well, you can make a very good career out of being a fourth outfielder. Right. But I'd also like to see, and just even for the individuals, each one of those guys prove for sure what they can do as a regular. So it's going to be fun. And as we've talked about before, platoons in center field are just bizarre. But I think you're right. I think that's more or less what we're going to see from here on out, is as much of Daza. Maybe Daza moves over to right later in some of these games and gets Charlie Blackmon some rest. Daza actually has huge defensive numbers in right field. Like, he's put up like 5 DRS in like 80 innings or something. It's like, it's not even like I didn't even know it's possible. It was like a ridiculous rate for him in right field. So that would be interesting to see if they could find ways to be a little more creative with the lineup to get more time for those. And that also assumes that, Hilliard doesn't go for his next 14 with 9 strikeouts, and this becomes a moot point by the end of the week. You never know. But until I just want to see, especially the ceiling on Hilliard. It's like 275 with 600 slugging, and that was the dream. That was always the dream, right? And it's such a small sample size, but you see him hitting those. The one last night was majestic, sir. Was it not? Was it not a thing of beauty into the Rockies bullpen? And just go. I think it was our good friend Nick Groke on Twitter of The Athletic who said, man, when Sam Hilliard hits a home run, he really hits a home run.
Yeah. If you go all in on one guy, that means you're going all out on another. And I don't think any Rockies fans can pinpoint any player on this team unless it's a more veteran guy. And really at that point, you're only talking about CJ Cron, right? Because Charlie's a little more of a veteran guy, and I don't think anyone's ready to go all out on him.
No.
Right. Even though he might not be a part of the next, postseason club, you still go, yeah, he's earned his spot.
Sure.
Keep him in there, even if he's not looking great. But you have to find that balance because you don't want to go all out on a guy. And for, anyone thinking, well, it wasn't that the case on Hilliard that they went out on him and he was down in AAA. There really was just no room at the big league level. And a guy we haven't mentioned who ultimately, if it does become some kind of a platoon between Diaz and Hilliard, is Garrett Hampson, who was playing center field relatively frequently. And, the thing that will be interesting when we look back on this, again, if everything works out great, everything works out great, and there's no second guessing. But maybe a seed to plant as far as, a premature second guessing, I guess, in a sense, is maybe the Rockies do need to go all in on a guy, right? And if you were going to do that, it would be Sam Hilliard, because as you said, he has the bigger ceiling, and say, okay, Colorado, deal with having a guy batting 150 for the majority of your season. Throw him out there in center field with above average defense, plus arm, and plus power when he gets a hold of it, and deal with that, the ramifications of that this season, since it's the transition one anyway. And maybe even next year that happens for part of it. And you go, but what could have happened with Jonathan Daza? Daza at best is probably like a fourth outfield. And again, could be a great trade chip this offseason.
Yeah.
There are a lot of options, right? And sometimes I think it's almost like if you gamble, if you happen to go up to Blackhawk and Central City and all that, you could just put $1 here and there and I lost $50. Or you could just say, screw it. I'm going to be here for 2 minutes and I'm going to put $50 on black at the roulette table and I'm done. And it's like, just like that, you could lose and everyone goes, well, that was really stupid. But
if it hits,
do you care about what people say?
Yeah.
Do you care about that? Or are you more inclined to say, you know what? I don't want to just, for me, it's not about the time. I don't want to, I don't care about, I want to kill a couple hours by spending $1 here and there. I really care about leaving this place with a lot more money than as I left. And the only way to do that is to go all in and do 50 on black.
And they were basically forced to do this with Raimel Tapia, but they did it with Raimel Tapia. They finally handed him the leadoff job in the everyday gig, because I'll tell you this, it was much the way it is publicly and still is now. The debate rages on. I'm telling you, folks, it's since 2013 when it was just the people who are really, really into prospects through now. Anyone who's engaged in this debate, it's more or less been the same thing. And it was going on inside with the Rockies as well. Some coaches really thought, just give Tapia starts every day. You got to get him in there. Some coaches thought, we've got these veterans with Ian Desmond, Gerardo Parra, whoever else is on the team at the time. We've got to stick with those guys. It's much less of a risk. Like you said, that's sort of the equivalent. I'm putting all my dollars around. I'm not trying to do it's like, just go all in on Tap. And they didn't for his first 3 years in the bigs. And they finally did. And they weren't sure what they were going to get. And he's hit 299 since then. And dramatically, as I wrote, if you've subscribed, you can go and read this, dramatically improved his defense and base running. So I agree with your assessment there.
And it's a luxury because you can't always do that. I think the reason why, like you said,
the years you can.
With Tapia's, you had other really good viable options, and you going for the postseason. You still had a contender, And it took a couple of things shifting
Right.
for Tapia to get that opportunity. And some guys need that. Like some players, you need to just pencil them into the lineup, give them that chance, give them that opportunity. And
Right.
there are other scenarios in which, you have to cut bait and you say, it never really worked out with this guy because we had other things going on. But the Rockies are in a situation where they can play around. They can get creative. They can do some crazy things that, sure, maybe we'll have other people in the league laughing at them, like, having a 6-man rotation or having these
But they
piggyback
were early on
starters.
that. They had that first.
They were early
smart.
on that.
Yeah, that was
right?
actually smart. They just didn't have, good pitchers. It turns out that quality strategy does not overcome lack of quality
Very
and
true.
talent.
So
But
they can get away with that.
That's right.
And it's, again, if it works out, you're a genius. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, you become a laughingstock. But if you don't care about that, and the bottom
Then
line is to
roll with
try
it.
some different things,
Yeah.
right now is the opportunity to do it and to go all in on Sam Hilliard.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I hope they do. That'd be so cool. That would be very, very cool. All right, let's toast our Breck Brews. Let's finish the offense real quick. Obviously, hit RBI, runs scored for Raimel Tapia. That's to be expected. Brendan Rodgers, who came through on your
Final at bat. Final at bat. His 5th one of the day.
Came through for you. So he got your pick of the week and pushed his hit streak to 10 games. So that was a good. May have seemed like, hey, it's just a hit late in the game and they're already way up, but it meant a lot to all of us.
It's 13-6, and it's like, you can turn the game off. And I'm like, the AT&T Sportsnet, give it to me. Give it to me. I need this at bat. This is an important one.
And McMahon drove in a pair and had a really, really, really phenomenal at bat to draw a walk that set up the Elias Diaz grand slam in the second. That just was one of his best. Homage is the most he's ever given an homage to Todd Helton in his life. He was really fighting off those cutters in, really seeing the stuff that was dropping and trying to measure out that low difference between the sinker and the changeup. It was such a quality, smart hitter at bat to get out of that thing with the walk. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. So we toast our Breck Brews on this day to the Colorado Rockies offense and their 13 runs on 13 hits. You can get a 15-can sampler down at your local liquor store, down at King Supers. You get a much bigger beer down at the DNVR bar when you're a member of the family. Do subscribe today at the DNVR.com. Get access to all that written content. You get discounts on hats and shirts, and you get to come and hang out in our Discord channel where we're always chatting with each other and all the sports and movies, television, current events, Olympics, everything that's going on. Come hang out with us. Be a member of the family. So many perks for doing so. Sign up today at thednvr.com. One of the many perks, of course, that you get is that we hook you up with our fantastic sponsors all the time. One of my favorites, one of our newer ones, Solace Meds. They're awesome. There's one right down the street from the DNVR bar. They've got a couple other fantastic locations. Whoop, that is the wrong read. There they are. I was going to say, got to get the locations correct. One in Fort Collins, one in Wheat Ridge, one off of Broadway, one just blocks away, as I said, from the DNVR bar on East Colfax. The one out in Wheat Ridge, when you mention the code DNVR20, not only you get 20% off, you also get a free Solace bar and King Cone. For the rest of us, anywhere else, whether you go online to solacemeds.com, that's SOLACE meds.com, or any of the other locations, you go in, you use promo code DNVR20, they'll hook you up with 20% off. They've got anything and everything under the sun that you can imagine, all super high quality, or unless you're going super budget, they've got budget too, which can be really important. So go out there, check them out. I cannot more highly recommend our friends at Solace Meds. We're a little deeper into the show, so let me go ahead and do one last one here and remind you about our friends at Chevalier Mortgage. Chevalier, the protectors of the realm. Absolutely love these guys. Mike and Virginia are the best. They've been longtime supporters of DNVR. They know all about the sports world going on around out here, so they can help you with whatever your housing market needs are, but while also keeping conversation and knowing about the world that you're in, because they're in that world too. Really, really appreciate Mike and Virginia. You know that it can be stressful out there trying to buy a house right now, trying to sell a house, trying to figure out this market. And it's a lot, and they can take a lot of this stuff off your plate. For DNVR listeners, if you go to dnvrmortgage.com, You can enter to win a free shirt or hat of your choice, but most importantly, you'll get set up with a free consultation to discuss all of your options. That's dnvrmortgage.com. Or you can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or Mike directly at 970-412-2472. Michael Chevalier, NMLS number 1931006, and Virginia Chevalier, NMLS number 1910631.
I have had people ask, what sport does mortgage play? I say, excuse me? DNVR mortgage? Oh. I see.
Yeah.
And I have to figure out a way to make them feel better about the silliness of that. But it's clearly working. They are listening.
I was going to say, what we need to do is come up with a clever answer to that question.
That would almost also be DNVR bets, where it's like, taking out a mortgage on your future for a better tomorrow, doing all that stuff.
It does sound like the setup for a joke, like for a punchline, right? What sport does DNVR mortgage play? Insurance ball. I got really good at coming up with jokes.
Football or mixed martial arts, because you're definitely earning money today, and tomorrow you will be feeling that. You are mortgaging your future if you're participating in those sports. Good luck. God bless.
Seriously, right? Few final notes on the game from last night. There was pitching for the Colorado Rockies, and Kyle Freeland, of course. This continues to be the odd story as of late. He goes out there, he pitches very, very well, and then he has to come out a little bit early because he got dinged up. These things being totally random and not at all related to each other, but takes a line drive off of the foot. Never exciting. Does ultimately come out of the game. Again, it seems like lately the Rockies are being exceptionally precautionary with all of this stuff. And why wouldn't you, right? It was even like the same thing with Austin Gomber just being bad the other day. They almost just went, there's no use in wasting any more of your bullets on today's game. You don't have it, kid. We're not going to force you to go out there and throw anymore, even if it's not an injury concern. These guys only have so many bullets in the tank. In a season where you're not going to be competitive, you've already gotten 5 innings of 2-run baseball, 5 strikeouts, no walks. If he's not 100%, there's zero reason to send Kyle Freeland back out there, no matter how bad he wants to compete.
For sure, yeah, you have to live to play tomorrow, right? You can lose the battle, but you don't lose the war. And for a guy that had his injury scare already this season, you don't want to mess with that in any capacity. So you say, okay, call it here. We'll go to the bullpen again. Even if you end up blowing that big lead, so be it, because you want Kyle Freeland to be able to make his next start, and more importantly, you want Kyle Freeland to be healthy and fine for next season, even if we are just talking about a foot injury or a foot contusion.
Right.
So you have to just be cautious, and you have to err on that side, and so that's not fun, especially if there's history on the line or anything other than that. It just is what it is, and you gotta live to play tomorrow. That's it. That's
right.
Kind of the bottom line.
But as has been the theme of the show over his last X games, right? That's what we're doing with Hilliard and Diaz. My baseball reference is freezing up. I think it's either a 2.15 or a 2.75 ERA for Kyle Freeland over his last 7 games. My baseball reference is freezing. You can double check. He's been very good, like the other 2 players that we've talked about since returning to the team in full capacity here. Kyle Freeland's just been very good lately, and really hasn't gotten roughed up. His biggest issue has been these little things of not being able to totally getting the innings, and they've all been these weird, injuries, getting banged up moments, right? But he's made his next start each time, so hopefully he does. And he keeps going out there and giving them at least 5 and, at most 2 earned runs, 2, 3, 4 is most he's done. And he's been very, very solid. And if that continues, it makes you feel better about it. And especially if I know a lot of people aren't buying into the whole build around this starting pitching and go and buy stuff in free agency this offseason, turn around and try to compete. But at the very least, if your starting place is that rotation, Freeland's is a huge part of that key. So that's got to be there. And so far, like I said, over these last several games, it has been. And that makes you feel really good about that rotation.
Yeah, after those first starts since coming back from the IL on May 25th, where again he was fine, again just trying to find himself, try to figure out a couple of things. Actually, it was 5 starts, but since June 22nd, he's been, according to Fangraphs, the 4th best starting pitcher in all of baseball, behind Walker Buehler, All-Star Zach Wheeler, and Lance McCullers Jr. So 8 starts, as you said, 2.15 ERA. Suppressing batting average on balls in play. Strikeout numbers aren't where you would expect somebody with the amount of success that he's having, right? When you look at fielding independent pitching or expected fielding independent pitching, you'd say, hey, he's getting really lucky, but he's done this before, right? He's pitched like that for an entire season in 2018, where some guys can kind of be freakish in that capacity, and not freakish where you're visibly seeing something strange and unusual. It's on the statistical side where you go, he shouldn't be able to do that. He shouldn't be able to have that kind of success if he's not striking out more people, but he is, and he has done that before in the past. And it's been wonderful to see him be able to do that, do it at home. I know a lot of it, the attendance last night had to do with the Cubs being in town.
Sure.
But it is also a Kyle Freeland day, and that's going to bring people out to the ballpark.
Yeah.
And people love their Freeland. We got a lot of Freeland guys and gals out there.
Yeah, no, having fun. It was great. But yeah, you're right. If you go back and look at his like ground ball rates and soft contact rates and stuff like that, that's really been beneficial to him over his career. And he's sort of like a pitching version of Raimel Tapia in that way, where everyone wants Freeland to strike out more guys. And like, if he could, that'd be great. That'd be great if he could.
That's a key word, right? If he could.
It's the same thing with the way people want Raimel Tapia to hit for more power, hit the ball in the air. It's like, okay, but how much of his contact is he going to have to sacrifice in order to do that? And at what point does he become a different player, or a player that he doesn't feel comfortable being? And I think Kyle Freeland has figured out a pretty great place for him to be in that kind of mid-7s area of strikeouts, which is substandard, but is always up there among. It's a weird stat because so many people think a pitcher has no control over this, but double plays, and the number of double plays that he induces, like an extreme amount, where at some point you go, okay, this isn't an accident. Like, he gets a lot of ground balls and has also had a pretty good infield defense behind him for most of his career. A very good, actually, infield defense behind him for his career. So
I think last year Freeland might have he was definitely one of the leaders in double plays last year. I remember keeping an eye on that. That was one of the things, and I think quality starts, he was up there really high. Rocky starting pitching in general, we're doing big things with that.
And that was his 2018. He didn't strike out a ton of people in 2018. It's probably what cost him the Cy Young Award, or at least not coming in second. It was the strikeouts, because the ERA was there, and I believe he was in the top 3 in double plays induced that year as well. So yeah, he's fun to watch pitch. He's fun to watch compete, isn't he? Just I know I'm like the 48 millionth person to say it, but still.
Yeah, we love it when Freeland makes his start at Coors Field, and he'll have another opportunity too. I think it should be Sunday, right, against the Marlins. So it's a double dip. It's a double Freeland start week. So that's always fantastic. You hope he's going to be okay. Again, if it's just kind of a little bit of a foot issue, I'm sure he's going to want to get back out there, suck it up a little bit, and get it going. Because while you do want to be cautious, and I understand why the Rockies are doing this, why any team ultimately would do that in this kind of a season. Yeah. There's this other element too of, guys didn't have a full year in 2020, right? And it's about building up innings on the arm, right? Building up certain levels of stress so that you can take that much more next year. And so you don't want to totally lose that. You don't want to totally say, you know what, Kyle, shut it down, man. You had a really great 8 straight starts, people build on it next year, right? You still got to go out there and do that and play. And so it's a science, right? There's a fine balance.
Yeah,
we have to kind of just suck it up, because that's baseball. You're gonna play. You're never gonna play 100%. I think even on opening day, you're not even 100%. So hopefully he's at enough of a percentile that the Rockies say, no, you're good. Go out there, pitch, and he's got one more chance to really add to what he's been doing since June 22nd.
Yeah. All right. And then the bullpen happened. Kinley looked nice in his inning, but they were fine. Like, we've seen much worse, right? The bullpen got their outs, and that's the important. So I know, Bowden has looked a little better recently. He gave up a couple of runs there, but he got his 3 strikeouts, but he finished his 2 innings. He finished the innings.
No walks with those 3 strikeouts. No walks. Sometimes that is a very, very big number.
Yeah. Especially for Rockies pitchers. Like, you can't give away free bases at Coors Field, and you certainly can't do it when you've got a lead, right? How many games have we seen where the Rockies blow stuff like that, and it begins with walk, single walk, and now you're really in a spot, right? So that Bowden and Santos again giving up a couple late, but it never really made you think like, oh man, this game is going to turn into a nightmare. He was able to buckle down, finish it, but he didn't have to go and take the ball from him and be like, oh man, here we go again. Any of that stuff. Yeah, 4 runs in 2 innings at the end of the game, and ultimately giving up 6 to Frank Schwindel.
Everyone here already knows that name inside and out.
I should have got like some of these other guys, but I get where you go. That's not the best look in the world, but
against a different iteration of the Cubs team, maybe you do sweat it. Right? You say, oh, right. No, they may come back, but
here we go.
Again, you didn't have anything to worry about. And on the flip side of the coin, we talk about the Cubs bullpen. Very, I don't know if fitting is the word, but it is curious that the Cubs open up with former Rockies infielder, now center fielder, Rafael Ortega, and then the Cubs end. They get their final 3 outs in the 8th with Rex Brothers. So, All right, man, it's kind of crazy. You could make somewhat of an all-star team, maybe more of a star team, maybe more of just a team with former Rockies players that I think, I don't know if this was an activity that was done at different points in the last couple of years, there could have been some, smaller groupings of players that you could have chosen between. But right now, partially because of how well the Rockies were kind of able to draft and develop in the early part of the 2010s, there's a lot of guys on a lot of different teams right now that are former Rockies players, and Cubs got their fair share of them as well.
Yeah. All right. Speaking, by the way, of your fair share, I know, Patrick, that I get my fair share. In fact, I think I get pretty much all of the cans and jars and glass and almost all the glass in my house made its way to me from Ball. Ball. Those Ball. Ball Arena, Ball Aerospace, ringing a bell. If I keep saying the word ball,
baseball, saying that spelling, it's
right.
There's nothing fancy about it at all.
Ironically, though, I don't know if you knew this, Patrick. They don't make balls; they make cans.
Like this one, I'm drinking some wonderful kombucha out of.
Exactly like
this. Delicious.
And I bet as soon as you're done with that kombucha, you're going to take that can and you're going to recycle it.
Got to. I'm a proud American, so I recycle my ball cans.
Correct. And so, and absolutely right. And as you all know out there, man, Ball is a big part of that whole initiative. They're taking care of the environment. They're 75% actually of all the aluminum that has ever been produced on the face of the earth is still in use.
That's
and
staggering.
Ball, isn't that amazing? Yeah. Absolutely amazing. So it's actually infinitely recyclable. So that's why Ball thinks aluminum, it's the material of the future. It can be reused and remanufactured forever. They're doing all kinds of fantastic things with it. And you can be a part of it because anybody out there, because they are looking for some people at their Golden plant, their plant in Golden. Just so when you show up, you're not confused. So I thought this was supposed to be a Golden plant. At their plant in Golden, Colorado, they're looking for more manufacturing positions, production technicians, and other roles, all kinds of fun stuff available if you want to be a part of a fantastic company that's creating sustainable products, that always treats their employees incredibly well, fair opportunities for everybody, including getting hired and advancement, all that really important stuff. You got to check this out. It literally is a golden opportunity. Sorry, I had to. Right there in Golden, you can check out #WorkAtBall online and apply for a position at their aluminum can plant. Text Golden to 77222 or go to jobs.ball.com and search Golden. That's jobs.ball.com and search for Golden, or simply text Golden to 77222.
Have a ball and hashtag work at ball. Done.
Absolutely. 100% each time. And last one for everybody. You know them, you love them. If you were listening yesterday, you made some money with them. Thanks, Brendan Rodgers, for coming through at a time where it meant nothing at all for the game and everything for us. Of course, you know I'm talking about DraftKings Sportsbook. They make watching sports that much more fun. Sometimes they even fatten up your wallet a little bit. I've been having a whole lot of fun this year doing overs and unders on strikeouts and who's going to get a home run, who's going to get a hit, those types of things. Always fun. The Olympics have been a blast because it helps you learn about what's going on out there, what's good, what are the over-unders basically are another way of saying, what is this person expected to do? And if they surpass that, they've done very well. And if they haven't, well, then they've fallen just short. And that's basically what sports is, right? It's basically.
And if you bet on gymnastics, that's a good cover for wanting to learn how to have a better back handspring. Like we all want to be better at that, our back handsprings.
Right.
But now you don't have to feel guilty about it and say, I got money on US to do silver or better. Yeah. That was kind of what I bet on that. And meanwhile, then you can go back. You bought yourself 5-10 minutes of watching gymnastics and learn a better back handspring.
And you've improved yourself. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. Let's go DNVR to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only, new customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. All right, Patrick, on the hill tonight for the Colorado Rockies. John Gray takes his .362 ERA to the mound, faces off against Alec Mills of the Chicago Cubs with a .455 ERA on the season. Lineups not currently available, at least on the official app here. I don't know if they're out there. They probably haven't quite been announced just yet. And we probably... Let's see, because we'll probably be chatting with
Elias Diaz is the only one that even has a single at bat against Alec Mills.
Is that right?
That's it. And of the 5 guys for the Cubs who've had an at bat against John Gray, haven't really done much of anything. Jason Hayward is the only one that has an RBI. That's it.
This could be one of those. If John comes out with his best stuff, he could have a really, really good night tonight.
Really good, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be my. I don't know how I'm defining really good, but I guess that's going to be my bold prediction for tonight. John Gray is gonna be very, very good.
Could be over in strikeouts. Could be over in runs for the Rockies. I know Alec Mills has of course a no-hitter under his belt through that last year during the pandemic. But yeah, this. I would say this could go either way in a normal Cubs series, but it's not the normal Cubs, or as I saw online, scrubs.
Oh,
with CUBS capitalized. Sure. This was a Cubs fan actually who said that.
Of course it was.
Would call them the scrubs. Yeah, I think you're going to see another Rockies victory tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, with Gray on the hill, a lot of times you like their ability to go out and win anyway. And then as you point out, you add in this Cubs team that's really just kind of dudes figuring it out right now who've been sort of thrown into the fire. I tend to agree with you there. And they've got – I was just on it. Arrieta listed to go. Oh, that'll be fun. I almost wish I could place a bet on whether or not he'll actually pitch a day game at Coors Field.
He is not the same Jake Arrieta that has the ability to.
Yeah. I was going to say
dictate totally whether he starts.
You're just he could be in for a very bad day.
Yes.
I have that's one of the I'll just say this. I know some details that I probably shouldn't about how much Jake Arrieta hates pitching at Coors Field, and I don't believe he's done so in a couple of years.
He's going to need to suck it up. He will definitely need to do that right now as a veteran on that team, not actually making that much money. I mean, more than you and I might make in our entire lives. But for a ball player, you know, he's just got to suck it up and go out there. And that certainly will be a curious outing to watch as well. I'm excited for that. Yeah. I'm also excited for the 2022 schedule. Have you gotten a chance to look at that yet? Nothing major, just the generalities.
Yeah. I saw
the schedule.
Start against the Dodgers twice, and they end against the Dodgers, right? So season debut, home debut, and season finale all against the Dodgers. Thanks for that. No, those can oftentimes be fun games anyway. But otherwise, I didn't look at it too closely. The baseball schedule is always one of those things where I'm like, first of all, it always seems like it releases at a weird time to me. I don't know why they don't just do this in the off season if they always do it during the season prior.
Then it becomes a whole day where we could break down and maybe even look at different things and just have pure speculation.
Right. Because that's
just
all
say, okay,
like, by May, whatever you thought was going to happen goes right out the window. And it's like, how good do we think Atlanta was going to be this year? And just, you know, and they could still go on and win the World Series. Who knows? But right now, we're not feeling great about those Atlanta predictions, right? It's like stuff like that, you know.
The biggest takeaways, they got a 9-game homestand, I think, in May. So a little on the earlier side. You hope none of those get snowed out or rained out. They have their longest road trip. They got a 10-game road trip at the end of August and early September. That could be a little bit brutal, but I was thinking they weren't going to have that as I was looking through, because if you start on the road and you end on the road, there's got to be, you know, that's two big road spans. So maybe you don't have that long one, but they do have the 10 games. Cleveland, the officially minted Cleveland Guardians will be coming to town, and the Rockies will travel to Detroit. That's in April. That one might not be great, but I'm sure there'll be some fans that want to go out and check out Comerica Park. They also travel to Minnesota at the end of June. That's one I've kind of earmarked to potentially go out. I've been to the Metrodome, but I haven't been to the new Target Field. And they play Chicago in a series. That might be August, but that'll be the first time playing at Guaranteed Rate Field since 2008. Wow. They have only played the White Sox in Chicago once in the entirety of their franchise.
I was going to say, I can't even.
That's insane.
Like close my eyes and conjure an image of the Rockies playing.
Nor should you.
In this against the Sox in there. Yeah.
So weird, right? Literally 3 games.
Said, Detroit, when you said that they were going to go to Comerica, I was like, when was the last time the Colorado Rockies were in Detroit? Like, I can't.
So they played Detroit 15 times in Detroit. Okay. 14 times in Cleveland, 11 times in Kansas City, 9 times in Minnesota. So it's the fact that they are playing each division now kind of on a 3-year cycle is a lot newer. Previously, it was, why would we have these teams kind of playing against each other? And it does make sense that there should be a rotation, much like in the NFL, where, you know, okay, this year we're playing the South, this year we're playing so-and-so in interleague play or in cross-conference play as far as the NFL goes. So Kansas City will be coming to Colorado. So could for a lot of Rockies fans, your family might come to visit for that series, and the White Sox also come. So they'll play in Chicago and in Colorado. So there
you go.
That's pretty much it. I mean, as far as wins and losses go, you have
the
no
most
idea.
Interesting because trying to pick apart a schedule and be like, ooh, these guys are coming to town in late July and they're really good. Like, they're really good now.
Right.
Who knows what they're going to be a year from now? But but the interleague stuff is always because that's totally different from year to year, right? Who are you going to play? So those central teams, that'll be fun.
And the last time, actually, now that I think of it, the last time the Rockies would have played the White Sox in general, not in Chicago, that would have been Kyle Freeland's near no-hitter.
That's right. It would have.
That was a day game, so I think that was probably a getaway game, and I think that was
I believe that was
July.
The very last game before
the All-Star break
that year.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would have been the last time that they played. So for not having a lot of history, they've got a lot of history. By the way, Jorge De La Rosa and Aaron Cook were the starters in that game in 2008 that they won. They took 2 out of 3. And Tony La Russa was probably in his 60s.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah.
And here he is, still a manager.
Still doing the thing.
In MLB.
All right. Well, we'll be watching all of this stuff unfold over the next couple of days. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. Continue to watch these young players. Which way do the Rockies go with it? Do they go all in on a Sam Hilliard? Do they keep kind of platooning it and seeing what each guy has got? Can Brendan Rodgers keep the hit streak going? Can Elias Diaz keep the general good streak going? Can John Gray keep having basically his most consistent season as a starter? All of this stuff really, really fascinating. We'll keep our eyes on it. We know you will too. We'll see you on social media. Follow at Patrick D. Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies. Subscribe to the DNVR.com for all the written content. And frankly, and let me actually even just say this publicly, I've been awful at written content this year. I've been trying to sell a house very poorly. I've been doing a crap ass job on the written content side of things, and that is coming to an abrupt end. I have just figured out, I think, a system that's going to work for me and empowering through on the written side of things. Patrick Lyons has been doing a phenomenal job holding down the fort. So I appreciate all of you that have been subscribing and been reading basically his stuff and the couple of things a month I've been able to get around to for the last 2 months. But back to the good old days where DC was just pumping shit out constantly. So if you've been wondering about that, if you saw the Tapia article yesterday, was it groundbreaking? Did it change the world? Was it some stuff I've probably already said on the podcast before? Wait, no, yes. It's like they can't have the same answer to all 3 of those questions. But yeah, just public service announcement. There's going to be a lot more written content to sink your teeth into over these final couple of months going into the off season and all of that. So legitimately just sorry about that, everyone. And look forward to it because there's going to be a lot of talking points, a lot of really cool things to go through. So subscribe today at thednvr.com. So you get all that stuff, you get your discounts, you get your bigger beer, you can come hang out with us in the Discord channel, you get your free t-shirt. I think I forgot to mention that earlier, from the DNVR Locker. So just become a member. It's the best thing to do. Other than that, we can only ask that you keep being the absolute best baseball fans in the world out there. We'll keep being absolutely Patrick Lyons and Drew Creasman in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.